Hey folks, well, I'm feeling a lot better today. You probably say, well, you weren't feeling well yesterday. No, I wasn't feeling well yesterday. And that was because, guys, I was telling you about the elimination diet, right? So let's talk about that. That day, what, about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, when I did the pancake and king syrup mix, I was all excited about it, as you could tell. But that shit sent me into a spiral because I don't eat sugar. By the way, we're trying something a little different today. Now, from what I understand, if you play copyrighted music in your background, then you have to give credit to the artist that you're listening to. Okay? So right now in the back, I know you can barely hear it. That's on purpose. I'm doing this as a test, okay? Because I'm trying to find out whether I can use, even though I have my own music, right, that I will have part of the production, I need to find out whether I can play copyrighted music. Because I really want to. I have a whole boatload of albums that I want to play for you guys. That's going to bring back a lot of memories for a lot of people out there. Okay? So right now, that group that's playing is Imagination. And if you grew up in the 80s like I did, and when I say grew up in the 80s, I mean those were your formative years, then it means a lot to you. And we're going to talk about the whole, because you know there's science behind everything, right? So we're going to talk about the science of why music brings back such joy. It depends on what's going. It depends on when that music was playing and what was going on in your life. It could bring back a lot of horror too, a lot of bad memories. But anyway, so that group is Imagination. So let's talk about music from the 80s, because we're going to do whole themes of that here on YouTube, okay? And a lot of the times it's going to be primarily doing lives. We'll pick a night. It may actually take off. I'm thinking it's going to take off because people really are into the 80s music, and that's everybody. That's even generations from today, and older generations. They appreciate, even the folks that grew up in the 50s and 60s. They appreciate the 80s music too because it was fucking good. All right, so let's talk about the groups from the 80s and see if anybody knows any of these groups. So this is Imagination. These are actually LP. These are albums I have playing. Okay. In fact, hold on a second. Let me show you. So let's start it like that. I think they said that if you show the album, then so this group, Imagination, In the Heat of the Night. And I got it low right now on purpose. You only can barely hear it in the background, but in the future, I can have it coming right into my production studio where it'll be clear as me talking. Okay? Because I want you guys to get the appreciation, because there are going to be things I'll talk about in the music. Let's see if we can stand this up here. Does this work? Oh, it does. That's not going to stand up there long. And I don't want it to fall on Mr. Boots. He's right here. Mr. Boots is right here. Oh, here we go like this. Let's see if this works. Now we're doing this on the fly, y'all. No, that's not going to work. Let's stand it right here. Let's see if it stands here. I don't know whether that's an angle. But anyway, so a lot of the, let me feed him first. I'm sorry about that, brother. A lot of the groups from the 80s, believe it or not, a lot of them were from out of United Kingdom. And I don't want to say, no, not all of, a lot of them but some will hear from the U.S. We're going to talk about those too. We're going to talk about those. And I think it's because the folks over there appreciate it. Because remember, everybody learns music from way back. And when I say way back, I'm talking about during the jazz period, the jazz era here in the United States. And so a lot of these chord progressions that you're hearing that these folks are using out of United Kingdom, England, it's based on R&B, and it's based on jazz progressions from way back. And they will tell you, if you hear them in interviews, you will hear them talk about, yeah, you know, I used to listen to, you know, Ray Charles, and I used to listen to Ramsey Lewis, and they'll get into all these different, you're like, man. So they had, those groups had a lot of influence on those folks over there. And that's both the white groups and the black groups out of the United Kingdom. Okay, but my favorite groups from the 80s are out of the United Kingdom. So, Imagination is one of them. Do you guys remember the group Duran Duran? I have them. I got the whole mix. Okay, I got the whole mix. What's up, buddy? But let me concentrate real quick, because you know how I forget to put stuff in my coffee. Making my coffee here. But let's bring it back to the United States. So in the United States, we had groups like the Whispers. You guys remember the Whispers? You guys remember the group Midnight Star? Oh, snap. I know I hit some buttons there. Midnight Star? Okay. So, yeah, let's get back on Imagination for a second. Because there's a song I'm going to wait when it comes on. I want you guys to hear. I know you can't hear it. That's on purpose. Because I'm doing this as a test to see if they ding me. Okay? To see if it's true. See if the artificial intelligence told me the right thing. So the song we're going to be looking out for is, because it was a big hit, and it's called Just an Illusion, and it's the long version. Okay? I hope this shows up. I hope that shows up. That'd be cool. And then there's another song on that album that I remember when I went to, for folks that are from B-More, right? I know I have folks on here from B-More, right? And there was a club called Odell's, right? And I remember coming back from Ohio. I was in Ohio for my first, let me tell you about my college life too. So, this is it. You can barely hear it, but this is the joint that I heard in Odell's, and I was 18, going on 19, somewhere in there. And so back, you may say, you guys were in the club at that age? Yeah, because it was a different kind of scene. It was a different kind of scene, you know. But anyway, I came back from Ohio. I was in Ohio for the first year I went to college was Ohio. That's not the school that I graduated from. I was in Ohio at Ohio Institute of Technology, which is now known as DeVry. And I don't even know whether DeVry is around anymore. I really don't. I have no idea. But I was only out there for a year in Columbus. So I come home one day on just a break, coming home on a weekend. And we went down to Odell's. Let me tell y'all about a club now. This club was unlike, and this is a real popular club. This is a famous club from all over the East Coast. People were coming from all over. Florida, coming down from New York. Even though New York had the joints up there too. But people will come this place, people coming from Philly. So this club, I'll tell you, let me give you some background. The club, back then I had no idea this, I found this out later on, but the club was owned by Big Tom narcotics dude. Big Tom, right? And and I remember being in the club, right? They had different levels. If you folks that have been there know what I'm talking about. So you had the main floor, and then you had upstairs. The upstairs, they had there was a room in the back, and apparently I found all this out later, but I recall it. There was a room where they would actually distribute the items, and folks would come in, it's jamming, partying, and you would never know, and I didn't know. I was young, I had no clue, and I wasn't into that kind of stuff anyway. But anyway, that's just a sidebar. So I come back, man, and this club is pumping. I had never, and I love bass. I love bass in my music, and I had never heard bass so thick on such a low frequency that it literally would move your body. And that song came on, Music and Lights. And the reason it's significant is because music and lights, right? So you got the music and then you got the lights. So this place is, first of all, it's darked out, it's blacked out. Everything's black. The walls, the ceiling is set up like a studio. It's black, right? The floor was I can't remember whether it was lit up. I don't think it was lit up. No, it wasn't. I don't think it was lit up because that took away from the lights that they would have in sync with the music. So you got these speakers that were in the corners, and they were built into this place. I'm telling y'all, people came from everywhere. And here's the thing that made it such a popular place, which I didn't know at the time, but now I'm reflecting back on it, because they did documentaries on this place. The floor underneath had giant springs. Big ring springs to absorb the bass. So when you were on the floor dancing, the floor would be, you couldn't really tell, but it was part of the mechanics of the building, and it would bump with the bass music, and then the lights are spinning in sync with the music, and that song came on, and that was the first time I'd heard the song. And that's what prompted me and my brother to get that out. And then that's when we fell in love with Imagination. That's just a little backstory about that group. So let's talk about Midnight Star. Shucks. All right, Midnight Star. So Midnight Star came into my life out in Ohio. And I was one of my really good friends who came out to Ohio from Poly also. I went to Polytechnic, for folks from Baltimore. I went to Baltimore Polytechnic Institute. And the recruiters we didn't know that DeVry was a thing. DeVry is like, it's what do you call that? A technical college? I don't know what they would classify those as, but they basically taught electronics technology, computer science, those kind of things to help people get a specialty to go out into the workforce. And so they would have recruiters come to these high schools, in particular ours, because we were a college prep school. And what would help the recruiters is that we were already taking college courses, right, to prepare for college. And so there were some courses that we took would make us eligible at their place. And I wouldn't even call it really a college. It's an institute. I mean, I think that's how they get around it. But we thought of it as going to college. Okay. And at the time, see, there's that institute thing again. So at the time, when I got out there, the name of it was still Ohio Institute of Technology, Ohio Institute of Technology, which I had heard about, while we were in high school, but you're just in high school. But then they changed the name to DeVry Institute. So then they have DeVrys. At that time, they had DeVrys all over the country, different places. Anyway, so my good, I never forget where I was. So my friend also came out there, they came to recruit at my high school. So a lot of us were out there. A lot of us actually came out to Ohio, Columbus. And he was a DJ. And I would help him. He's the one that taught me how to actually turn tables, right? I can do. Okay. So, line up, line up. I didn't do a lot of scratching because I like to just line up the music and bring in the next one and line the beats up, make sure it was in rhythm and look at the little shit on the side to make sure that the beats were the line. It's a whole thing for my DJs to know. So that's when Midnight Star came on. He played Midnight Star, and I had never heard of these songs. I have that album too. Y'all know which ones for my peoples that were around during the 80s. Let's think of some other groups because I have a pretty diverse group of people on here. Let's see. What about, you guys remember Toto? Remember the song Africa? Remember the song Rosanna? Rosanna! Remember that? I know. So anyway, this video this is gonna be short. I just wanted to come on here to give you guys a little flavor of what's gonna be coming. Because if I find out that I can actually have stream with these folks or anybody in the background, sometimes it's just going to be on, and I'll be talking. It'll just be part of the atmosphere while we're shooting the breeze. But other times, it's going to be prominent, and we're going to be actually talking about it because there's a lot of intricacies in these songs that I'm in love with even to this day that I actually incorporate in my own productions. The different styles, the way they do their drums and whatnot. So it just stopped. It just went off. So now you just hear me. But so we're going to get especially for my music people, we're going to get into the intricacies of the melodies that they're using, how they're using their melodies, how they're using the harmony. Like I said, when I got started on TikTok over there, I had my plan was never to talk about politics, but that took off. And so I had to stick with it because people gravitated to that. But I have a whole host of things that I want to talk about. And music is just one of them. So we know music, we know science, we know politics, right? And we know about a whole bunch of other stuff that we're just going to keep under wraps right now. Well, I'll say it. We're going to talk about health. We're going to talk about spirituality in terms of now we're not talking about religion now. I ain't talking about religion. Like I said on other videos, no one would ever say that yes, he's a religious guy. No, I left that all behind when I was a teenager, 16, when my mother was basically forcing us to go to church. Now I will tell you this. Now that was at the point my father was out. He had left. But my mom insisted that we go to church, even though he was also a big time church guy. Okay. In fact, I think that's how they met, in church. Excuse me. What else was I gonna say about the religion thing? So we won't be talking about a lot of religion, but I will tell. I'm backing up for a second. Back to my mom taking me to church, me and my brother. That's where I got a real deep appreciation. Even though I was taking piano lessons, I would be in church watching the piano player and the organ player and listening. So I was in church for the music. That's what I was in church for. Right? For folks that that know anything about black church, it's like that. It's like that. So I wasn't hearing the message and all that. I was when you look at the program and it was like, hey, this music is going to come. That's when I sit up and I'm looking, right. Anyway, and back then I had glasses. I was a nerdy geeky guy. I was that guy. Yep, lanky, big buck teeth. These teeth that I have right here, these are the same teeth that I was young, but they were this size when I was this tall. But people loved when I showed my teeth. But then I realized that some people were just making fun. And then I stopped smiling. Did that for a couple years too. But that's a whole nother. See, we're going to get into all that kind of stuff about growing up, about people, bullies. We're going to talk about how to get past that for the young generation that we have that are watching. We're going to get into all kind of topics. That's what I want to make this channel about. So my name, Solo International, on here, the reason I had that, I think I told that story. The reason that I have that name is because I thought my whole channel would be about me traveling all over the world. So we're going to talk about that kind of stuff. We're going to talk about the countries and have folks been to these particular countries and what did they think about. It's just it'll be almost like a variety show. Now, what we won't be doing, this is what we won't be doing. Like I said, I'm not into a whole bunch of, I don't make it a practice to gossip. Now, when I say gossip, I'm talking about, I don't gossip about, like at the workspace. You would never hear me gossiping about somebody else or kicking it off. And somebody may come up to me and say something to me about it. And then there's sometimes I'll be like, yeah, man, but that's what he's doing, man. You know, and I try to play it off. So I'm not really into gossiping about people that I know. I'm not into that at all, right? Now, we're talking about people that are in the media, sports people, actors and actresses, politicians. You know I can go deep on that. We can talk about those things. Now, I'm not going to be up on every like for here. Let me tell you somebody who I'm not up on. I used to tell people over on the other TikTok streets, Taylor Swift. I don't know one Taylor Swift song. That is the honest truth. I don't know one Taylor Swift. So it turns out though that I am a Swiftie. You know why I'm a Swiftie? Because she loves cats. That was an automatic. I'm a Swiftie and I'm a fan, and I don't know any of her music. So that just shows you. But people like her, I don't know too much about her other than her coming to the games for Travis. Other than that, I don't know too much. I know she's popular. I know she makes a whole bunch of dough, but I don't know a whole bunch. And I don't know. Here's another one I don't know a whole bunch about. I'm not in the Beehive. I'm old, y'all. So I'm not in the Beehive. I know. Actually, I can say that I know a song of hers, and that's the country one because I hear it everywhere. Other than that, but we can talk about her. There's a lot I want to talk about her, about Beyonce. I used to call her Bouncy. Who else could we talk about? Oh, and Diddy, this trial. I told y'all that I wasn't interested at first, but when they mentioned and played that tape of Prince, my guy. Oh, first of all, I got all kind of Prince shit. I'm a groupie, so I got all kind. We're gonna do that also. I have rare shit from Prince that folks that probably on here never heard of, never heard ever. I got a C story to tell you about Prince and seeing him in person, not in concert. So we save that for that day. Okay. Well, what else people that we could talk about? We could talk about people like Jamie Foxx. I love Jamie Foxx. You want to talk about funny? We can talk about what's the little guy, the Heart dude. We can talk about him, but if I were to say funny, Jamie Foxx, hilarious, make me laugh out loud, which I rarely do when I'm just sitting here by myself. That dude will have you crying. Mr. Hart, not so much. His style is just, He's cool and everything. He makes small movies and everything, but it's just a different. It's a different vibe. Maybe because he's younger. Jamie Foxx is getting up to be around my age, so maybe I don't know. But we can talk about those kind of things. We can talk about now flipping topics now. We could talk about the cosmos, the universe. We can talk about a whole series I did over on the TikTok about UFOs, right? We can talk about flat Earth. We talk about all that kind of stuff, the things that we call conspiracy stuff. And then we really gonna dive deep on things like the Anunnaki, Nibiru, right? Things like that. Because I'm big time into, I got to get close up on the camera on this. We're going to spend hours upon hours talking about sacred geometry, because if you are aware of sacred geometry, and I'll demonstrate it for you guys. This is like a therapy thing that I do for myself. If you can actually draw on a piece of paper from scratch the flower of life. I did one and I cut it out. I keep it around on my desk. It's somewhere. It might be even as a bookmark right now. But we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about the significance of knowing why that's so important to all of life. And you see that symbol, the flower of life, everywhere in the world, on every continent. So there's a lot of stuff that we can cover. And we're going to call this the Solar International Channel. Welcome. If you don't know who I am, they call me a whole bunch of different things, but on here they call me Solo. And I hope that you will join me, because I'm telling you, it's going to be a thing, as I like to say that. It's going to be a thing. I'm going to make it a thing. How about that? I'm going to make it a thing. So we're going to kill it right there. See you guys in another video. Salud.